Hey, good evening, good people. I am Andy Behrens. He's Dalton Del Don. We are your friends from the Deep Shot. We're your friends from the internet. Tonight, we're going to run it back on both YouTube and X. We're doing this live nonsense every Monday, just trying to catch you up on the events of the week. Dalton, what's happening? How we doing? How has Week 7 treated you?
No complaints really. The Bo Nix fourth quarter was still shocking, and what a break for those who had them in Survivor.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, yeah.
a couple of nice hat tricks. Jonathan Taylor versus CMC, just putting up monster stats each week, and going over some rest of season ranks before we started recording that I thought were some interesting debates. How about you, Andy? We were talking before we went live here about your Taco Bell run. That's far more interesting than my fantasy teams.
Yeah, for those who aren't familiar with it, I won't spend a lot of time on it because you don't need to hear about my running. You don't need to hear about my running any more than you need to hear about my fantasy life. But I am doing an ultra marathon. I've done a few marathons before. I'm not worried about the distance so much. The gimmick with the race is there are 10 Taco Bells along the route. It's a 50K. It's a little over 30 miles. 10 Taco Bells along the route, and you have to order a non-beverage menu item from at least 9 of them. I think
Brutal.
I think I got this.
You're looking forward to it. Yeah, that would be rough.
I feel like this is going to be like on the start line. It's going to be just a bunch of people who are runners, who kind of dabble in tacos, whereas I am just an absolute multi-decade Taco Bell lifer who dabbles in running, and I feel like that's my edge.
Yeah, you say you dabble in running, but if people don't know, you're an amazing runner who runs a crazy amount of miles every day. So I'm sure, and I've seen your eating skills late at night as well. So I actually have no doubt in Andy Behrens.
You've not seen my. I don't think you've fully experienced my Taco Bell
Yeah, not
skills.
Taco Bell, but yeah, maybe Jack in
At,
the
at,
Box.
at various points in my life, in my teens, in my 20s, in my 30s, into my 40s, I have had phases in which I have hit Taco Bell hard. I don't know, like 5 days a week. There's what I was telling you before we went on. There's just absolutely no way that this is even going to be close to the most Taco Bell that I've consumed in like a 6 or 7 hour period. So I'm not even the slightest bit worried about the food.
I haven't consumed fast food outside of In and Out or Chick-fil-A in like 8 years. So if I had Taco Bell, I would not make it a block after we're at this point. I want updates when this happens. And sadly, it sounds like it's a year away, but I want pictures.
Oh man, we were also talking about yeah. I've done a couple of training runs with a few mile intervals, 2 mile intervals, interspersed with Taco Bell, and it's freaking awesome. It's going great, so I'm looking forward to it. I have to assume that as a Niners fan, you're probably swept up in, I got to imagine that every Niners fan today is talking about how much they botched the Jake Moody situation, right? It's got to just be a huge civic scandal.
Yeah. Eddie De Niro, as I call him, is doing just fine in his stead. But honestly, Niner fans are happy for Moody, and I mean, seriously rooting for him and happy that he landed on his feet in Chicago for you. And those are some funny tweets, no doubt. That Shanahan, another botched job by Shanahan with the league's best kicker. But no, that's funny that it was an afterthought when we signed off last Monday, and then he's turned into it's the fantasy monster since then.
Yeah, he's already on the short list of my favorite Bears. The Bears, of course, the hottest team in football, so that's saying something. I don't. Yeah. I mean, sometimes a kicker just needs a change of scenery, and I'm sure it's going to be fine. What should we catch people up on? Oh, Emeka Egbuka. He's friggin' playing. That's something. Reportedly going to be active. Saw that shortly before we came on here. This is. I don't know. Reading the tea leaves, I guess a couple days ago, this seemed possible. Any hesitation whatsoever firing him up? I mean, I don't think so, right? He's freaking Egbuka. He's been awesome so far this year. We've already seen him with Mike Evans. I think we have to assume. I mean, shoot, you just don't have many alternatives. I know there's 4 games or 4 teams in action tonight, but man, there's no way you're playing any of these other scrubby Bucks over him, right?
Yeah, certainly risky given how recently he suffered this injury and kind of an unprecedented return.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm personally debating right now. I was even going to ask you in a DFS lineup tonight, DK. I have exactly $500 to spare, and would you rather Mike Evans or Igbuka? I mean, and I have Evans as my 15th wide receiver this week. So yes, you're throwing both in indoors, high total. The Lions' secondary is totally banged up. So yeah, it's a nice surprise. You're right. There were some tea leaves that this may happen, and I threw him in my ranks. The community wasn't buying it. He was still buried as of Sunday
Yeah.
morning, I think in the 60s or something. But a pleasant surprise. Again, obviously, risk that he leaves this game after an aggravation. But no Chris Godwin. This hurts those who were relying on Otton. Suddenly, Otton goes
Yeah.
from looking like a smash spot to Evans and Igbuka activated. But yeah, the more the better players on the field, the more entertaining this game should be tonight, and it should be a track meet.
Yeah, it's a huge bummer actually. If you were, I mean, it's not a bummer. He's a great player. We like it when great players play.
But yeah, you have him.
But it's a bummer if you'd like stashed, Sterling Shepard, Kate Otten, one of these random Johnsons from the Bucks, and we're expecting to get something out of him tonight because I don't know, he takes up a lot of oxygen. I wouldn't assume that you're going to get much of anything. And then as you look to the late game, there are no secondary receivers for either Houston or Seattle that you can really feel good about or who might be available. So that's a tough spot. Yeah, I don't. It is actually an interesting question, like Evans over Igbuka, because I threw Igbuka into the ranks when it became a possibility that he would play, but I didn't actually rank him as I would normally have him ranked if he were for sure going to be active. I don't even know why I hedged like that. Like where did you drop him into the ranks? Because in a normal week, even with Evans, I mean, I'd probably have him wide receiver 12 or higher. In a track meet like this, I suppose I'd have him higher than that.
I think I just played the ECR game and I looked where he was ranked and I was like 10 above him, but he was so low. I didn't want to be buried if he doesn't play. So I played a little of that game and I think he was literally in the 50s or 60s or something. That's what I'm saying. Like the community was not buying, but I wish I had just treated him as if he were playing. I don't even know the rules there. If they're inactive, you may not get punished for that. Like I haven't looked that deep into to the rankings, but he should have been, if we know he's playing, he would have been a top 20 guy in this matchup this week if we had known that. But like I said, the community wasn't buying it. He was just in the consensus still buried as if he was certainly not going to play.
Yeah, I don't think there's any really reason to worry about either Evans or Igbuka, right? Because Baker's been cooking with Igbuka all year, and obviously he has multiple seasons of profitable history with Mike Evans. So no worries either way. I think they're both top 20 receivers. Fire them up. This should be a great game. Biggest injury of the weekend, I'm pretty sure, is Jaden Daniels. Probably got to talk about that a little bit. He exited with a hamstring issue. Looked pretty bad when it happened. He felt it, stayed down on the turf right away. But the subsequent news on this has not been too dire. It doesn't seem like it's likely to be a multi-week thing. His team doesn't play until Monday. They get the Chiefs next week. And it's almost good and bad, right? Because it's good because he gets an extra day to become available, but it's bad because your only alternative is going to be Marcus Mariota if Daniels can't go. So how are we feeling? I don't know. How are we feeling about Washington generally, and how are we feeling about Daniels specifically?
Definitely a bummer, another injury for Daniels. That kind of messed up that whole game, everyone involved. Mariota threw a pick six the very first series he came in, and then it was just, shut it down pretty much offensively in that game. But so the Monday night spread is -10 Chiefs. I mean, I know Kansas City's rolling, but to me, that suggests that Mariota might be playing this week. That's a pretty massive spread there.
Yeah.
And Monday is going to be, as you said, the extra day, but also for fantasy managers, may not have the luxury to even know if he's playing or not by the game time decision. So a bummer there, and we might cautiously plan on him missing a week. But good news is it doesn't look long term. He gave a thumbs up to his mom after he left the medical tent. So I think this would just be short term at worst.
Yeah, I suppose if you're looking for quarterback alternatives, and you're not willing to wait until Monday, how about Joseph Flacco? It was an incredible game on Thursday night. Fun on both sides, but 342 yards from Flacco, 3 touchdowns in that one. He's obviously is widely available in fantasy. 47 pass attempts. I mean, the guy had been with the team for like 10 days, and he has one game with like 45 attempts and another game with 47. That to me is, it would be crazy if it were anywhere else, but we kind of know what has to happen in Cincinnati. I would just like to put forward the idea to you, Dalton, which I don't know. Okay, Jonathan Taylor makes this seem a little bit silly, but short of Jonathan Taylor, if Flacco actually like normalizes the Bengals and we get value out of T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Chase Brown because of Joe Flacco's contributions, I think he might be the fantasy MVP.
I'm going to raise my hand this week and say I was wrong. I called Flacco a modest upgrade over Browning. Clearly, he's a dramatic upgrade. I just thought, you look at the under the hood stats, and he was just barely better than Browning. Obviously, he was going to be throwing to better players now, but hasn't been good in 2.5 years. He was not good in the Colts. In that system, yeah. Daniel Jones, and let's say MVP, 1 year later. But man, Flacco has come in, and I watched a ton of his first game against the Packers in the Survivor, and he was really good after just arriving. And then against the Steelers, he lit them up. So I am looking at the rest of season ranks and debating CeeDee Lamb, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Puka Nacua, and Jamar Chase is my top four among, right? He's right there. If he's going to get that volume, I think I read it was his highest first read target share in any game of his career. So he's feeding these guys. Higgins is now back to top 25-ish, certainly top 30th receiver you're going to use weekly. Great news, and I like the way you frame that. Fantasy MVP, brought them back from the dead, and man, I was just flat out wrong. I thought he was going to be a nice improvement, not a huge one that just totally resurrected their seasons here.
Yeah, no, it's an important thing to note. Like, he legitimately lost the Browns job this year and legitimately lost the Colts job that was handed to him last year. So it's not like he's been flawless. I did go back through the career game logs for both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and there has never been a game in which those two saw a combined 33 targets or anything all that close to it. Like, that's, on the one hand, it's nuts. On the other hand, of course that's what they should do, right? They're going to be chasing points all year, and they have these two absolutely otherworldly talents, and that is exactly what they ought to be doing. And it is. I'm sure it's what Joe Burrow would have been doing with this season. I mean, it was well discussed throughout the summer. But man, it was great to see. And seriously, if he actually, again, I feel like all he needs to do is make it normal, because it was not with Jake Browning at the controls. That guy was a chaos agent. You never knew where the ball was going to go. Everything had a chance to be intercepted. And it looks good with Flacco, and he can't possibly be operating from even a third of the playbook right now. So this is going to get really fun.
They can't run the ball, and it's a great schedule too. It's very nice that trade happened, man. It's so much better than Browning.
Worlds better, which is crazy to say. Interesting question for tonight's game. Start Rachaad White or Egbuka. That's a dilemma I have in one league. Do you have a lean here?
Yes, running back. Running back's usually safer to begin with, and a guy coming off a hamstring, what was it, a week ago? I'm going White here, even though the setup is better for passing, but White will get the targets too, and a goal line score, even if he doesn't get the yardage. So, I'll probably be wrong here, but I actually do feel like I think you got to go White given Egbuka's injury status.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say White, and then I was going to apologize for it because I know it's really boring, and I know it's not what you want to do. But I was gonna default to the guy who is almost certainly going to touch the ball 15 times or more, probably more. He's useful as a receiver too, so it's not like you're taking a zero in PPR. I'd lean White here, and there is, again, probably more so with Egbuka than with Evans. There's injury, there's like re-injury.
That's how I read it. Yeah, that's how. And then when Evans missed practice Friday, everyone freaked out, but they were playing Monday, so that was like a maintenance day, and he practiced fully Saturday. So that's how I'm reading the situation as well. But we're guessing.
Before I take a couple of other questions, I want to ask you, I haven't even mentioned the second game. We have another Monday night doubleheader. The second game is Houston-Seattle. How are we feeling about the Seahawks backfield? I always find the Ken Walker questions difficult to answer. So last week, Zach Charbonnet plays 60% of the snaps. He wasn't it wasn't particularly good. Ken Walker only plays 35%, but I think it is worth noting that when Ken Walker's on the field, he probably gets the football. He touches the ball almost every time he's on the field for that team. I think he had like 14 touches and like 19 snaps last week, something like that. In my view, he is, and I think this is probably consensus, he is the much more explosive player. So if we're going to give each of these guys 12 touches, I want Ken Walker, because I know that one of his touches has a better chance to, flip the field, to go for 60 yards and a touchdown. I just think he's a big play threat anytime he touches it. But I also don't want to just ignore the fact that Zach Charbonnet might play a lot more than Ken Walker. Tough defensive matchup. How do you feel about it?
This is a disaster for fantasy managers who are totally upset with the coaching and saying, why isn't Walker getting more playing time? Because look at the efficiency, the yards per carry, the production. But I don't think this is going to change. And some of that's misleading, Andy, because Walker's just getting all the carries in between the 20s. And Charbonnet's actually been the guy getting all the work in the red zone and inside the 10. And that obviously can affect your yards per carry when you're around, the shorter area of the field. The other problem here is Seattle has the lowest target rate in running backs, like 10% in the league. So Walker, I agree with you. I'm ranking higher every week because he can break a 80-yard touchdown any touch. He's an explosive guy, and Charbonnet is not explosive. But man, Walker's not seeing targets and losing goal line work. That's the crucial thing here. We need him to go back. I mean, I know he's kind of a boomer bust runner, and I guess they're prioritizing success rate down there. But Walker seemingly has been successful down there in the past. And that's the key to me is, will he go back to getting the carries inside the 5? Because their run rate is actually super high inside the 5 to the running backs. Darnold's not throwing it down there, but it's been Charbonnet over the last month.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is almost always Charbonnet on the field. I mean, shoot, it's Charbonnet on the field most of the time.
And pass protection's a thing. That's the thing. The coaches trust Charbonnet there more, and that means he will just get some of the long down and distance. And then this, when there's 2-minute drills, that's sometimes fantasy get a ton of that, and that's Charbonnet's role.
Yeah, it's crazy frustrating because you're always in a bad situation with a player when you have to bank on big plays, right? Because 10, 12 touches is not enough exactly to guarantee a big play from somebody. Benson saying, yes, Mike Tomlin was a huge fan of the Flacco trade. And
I'd love to go on a rant. Can I go on a quick rant on that?
I am saying Flacco's elite. Yes, please do.
Okay. I think the general consensus in Tomlin, now Tomlin's a little different. I guess it cost him a game and all that. I get it. But the general thought on this is literally the opposite of what everyone should be thinking. Don't trade within your division. A trade is for one guy sacrificing the future for the now, right? So your timeline. What team would you want to match your timeline with to be worse in the future when you are getting better? A team in the other conference or a team within your division? The team within your division. Right. So it's literally the opposite of the general thought of that so I don't get that. Now, Tomlin, again, it's different. He literally was facing Flacco that week and it cost him a win. But in general, you should be targeting teams with your division if you are not doing some challenge trade for this year. But if you're sacrificing the future for now or vice versa, it's literally the team you should be trying to line up with. Your timelines is the one you face twice or the one you're going to be battling records against 4 years down the road.
No, it's a great point. And also, and I'm not saying that this is the case with this particular trade, but like this goes across sports. You shouldn't shut any avenues out to improve, right? Like if you, I don't know, if the best prospect available to you in a deal, if the best haul available to you in a deal is some rival that you're still going to have to face yet this year, or I mean, it's crazy. It's not like these two teams are pulling from the same fan base either. They're not competing for eyeballs exactly. So the reluctance to trade within one's division in sports generally has always bothered me. And you make a really good point about this. If your franchises are on different timelines, you absolutely want the other team to be. You want your division rival to be worse in the future. It's a great call.
Flacco has looked elite, man.
Hell yeah, he's elite. Here's an interesting question. Had Kendre Miller on platform that shall not be named. Thank you for not naming it, I guess. There's a lot of good platforms out there. You can move the league. Picked up Tez, but now that Ibuka is back, any other available flyers tonight to consider? Flyers who might be better than Tez, who are probably available in your league. I don't like any. I mean, I don't like anybody with Houston. I'll start there. I mean, I like the guys who are already on rosters. I like Nico Collins a lot. I think the backs are interesting, but those supporting receivers, I'm just not a fan. I mean, like Hutchinson would be a wild flyer, coming off a game with a couple of touchdowns, but I don't like what I've seen from the rookies necessarily. Maybe Horton in Seattle. I don't know. I think I like him more than Tez Johnson, not a lot more. How about you?
That's a tougher secondary too. Houston by far. Detroit is
Yeah.
decimated in his secondary right now. I mean, just really, really banged up. And Tez, it would only take one play. Even if those guys stay full play, and you would think Igbuka is going to be limited snaps. I would think, or even Evans first game back. So I think in this setup, playing from behind, theoretically, negative game script against Detroit indoors. I think Tez, given the lack of options, with considering we have 4 teams here, it'd still be my choice.
I have a significantly inferior team that started Nix. Does that count? Sure, everything counts. Bo Nix, man.
Unreal.
Is Bo
Unreal.
Nix good?
No. I mean, he looked like a fantasy bust entering the fourth quarter, and then 2
Yeah.
touchdown passes, 2 touchdown rushes, and he outscored every other fantasy quarterback by more than 10 points. I mean, just a wild turn of events. But no, the answer is no, right? He's taken a major. Well, not that he was amazing rookie year, but he certainly hasn't shown much growth this year.
Yeah, it's. I had somebody ask me today who I liked better rest of season, Bo Nix or Justin Herbert, and like I don't even think they're close. Like one is a verifiably good quarterback, and the other one is whatever Bo Nix is. That said, like I don't know, Bo Nix can run for touchdowns. Bo Nix can kind of muck it up and find his way to 20 fantasy points in any given week. So he's a real, I don't know, he's a thorny issue for me as a fantasy commodity because I don't have any shares of him. I didn't particularly enjoy him last year. The story overall was fun. The Broncos were a party. I thought the Broncos were a joy to watch, and Knicks had some better games toward the back half of the season. Certainly, I feel like some of his misfires got overlooked a little bit. I don't think he's particularly good, but he's also, I don't know, he's fun in a strange way. How about the opposite side of that game? How about Jackson Dart? Where are you at? Where are you at now with Jackson Dart rest of season? Because that guy has faced Philly and he's faced Denver in each of the last 2 weeks. And I know it wasn't perfect for those defenses, but there are not a whole lot of defenses out there that are going to be any better than Denver. And Dart had some crazy luck. The Theo Johnson score was wild. I'm not going to say that he didn't, but also like the rushing touchdowns keep coming. He didn't even have a particularly, wasn't even a very fruitful rushing week for him, and he still found the end zone. Is he? I don't know. What should we? Top 10 rest of season? Probably.
First of all, Bo Nix wheels up this week at home against Denver, borderline top 5 guy. And yes, I was doing my rest of season ranks. I put Dart as my QB 10 just because of the running and everything you just said. I'm done doubting him. Of course, now he probably will flop, but I recommended fading him the last 2 weeks in those tougher matchups, and he just keeps getting it done despite inaccuracy issues. And even Denver, who's just shut down opposing rushing quarterbacks, they did it to him, but he still put up the fantasy points without Malik Neighbors, mind you. In his schedule, he has to face the Eagles yet again, but then it gets a little bit more favorable. But because of the rushing, I mean, if you're going to rush for 50 yards every game outside of the Denver matchup, yeah. And you look at these other, your guy Caleb Williams has stopped running conversely after the first 2 weeks. And even I do have Herbert above both. I agree with you. But the guys like Herbert, Dart, Caleb, Daniel Jones, Bo Nix, that's all like a tier for me between 8 to 12, like my quarterback's rest of season.
Here's actually a really good question. How similar are Nix and Dart?
Yeah, exactly. They're very similar. No?
I feel like Dart puts the ball on people and
Even
doesn't
better,
put
yeah.
it at risk at the same level that Nix does, which is shocking to me. I did not expect a thing from Jackson Dart this year. I thought he was a weird thing to chase after. We just never see it, especially early in careers from Lane Kiffin quarterbacks. I mean, shoot, we've never seen it from a Lane Kiffin quarterback. And I had that in my head. I had Matt Corral in my head. I had all kinds of things that ultimately had no relationship to Jackson Dart. And I think he's been awesome. He puts the ball on people in a way that Bo Nix does not. I would, as an NFL franchise, I would rather have Jackson Dart moving forward than Bo Nix. And that's not that, I know I've said some things that are not totally flattering to Bo Nix, but that's not even meant as disrespectful to Nix. Dart looks awesome to me. I wish they would, I don't think they'll do this, but I wish they'd trade for a receiver at the ahead
They're
of the
talking about
deadline.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They are talking about it. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, no. Wandale Robinson's is eating the targets right now. Hey, Andy, wouldn't be the first quarterback you were down on in college that surprised you. Remember Brock Purdy, our epic podcast fight back in the day?
Oh my gosh. I'm not over it. Is he ever going to play again?
I was going to say that. It doesn't sound promising. I'll tell you that. That report on last night was discouraging.
I could really use it. I've got in the NFC league that you and I drafted together. I have a good team that can, I don't know, it's not going to make a lot of noise in the overall contest, but it could win that league. It's got McCaffrey. I made some good choices on that team. That was the one where I basically just took McCaffrey to troll you with the fourth overall pick, and it's been, one of the best picks of my fantasy season. But I have Daniels on that team. I have Purdy on that team. Like, I'm in the quarterback wasteland. I'm going to maybe have to start like Marcus Mariota or some nonsense because I think... Who else do I have? I think I have Darnold, and I think he's part of this mega buy that's coming up. So it's bad for me at quarterback right now. How you doing in that?
I think in that one I'm not doing as well, but I have a team that's 22 overall in the RotoWire online contest. I know that's I'm a couple live ones in prime time. I think you're going to beat me in the one we did together. The all rookie one has not been great, but man, a lot of Tyler Warren and the McCaffrey, the one I'm looking at, the one I have number 22, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Jacobs, and McCaffrey and Tyler Warren just carrying me. But you know what I did this week is I looked ahead and I had Cleveland Browns stashed in a lot of leagues, and they really came through for me. I played them in DFS. That was a beautiful game to watch with Judkins scoring thrice and the defense just picking apart Tua. Yeah.
Man, Tua was terrible. I mean, nobody's asking about it in chat or anything like that, but I do just want to spend a second on that. I mean, Miami's defense obviously has been horrible all year. They've been the biggest problem in Miami, but perhaps not the only problem. Tua was absolutely terrible in some weather conditions this past weekend, facing a great defense. I'll allow those two things. But he was really messy. Eventually got pulled. Apparently, we're sticking with McDaniel, who I enjoy. Like, I'm glad that he's a coach in the league. I like listening to him. I'm glad that there is a non-traditional coach personality out there somewhere. But man, they gotta do something. They have Atlanta coming up, and Atlanta's defense has been good. I mean, I know your Niners just beat them and all that, but they are, I think, number 2 in the league right now in terms of total yards allowed. They are number 1 against the pass by a mile. And they've been legit good, and they've faced, Buffalo. They faced Tampa once already. They've faced Washington. They've faced the Niners. Like, they are not a product of a garbage schedule. They have really faced some teams, and they are pretty good right now. So I actually think that Atlanta's defense, not just for this week, but beyond, because they have a bunch of friendly spots on the schedule coming up. They got the Panthers coming up. They got a whole bunch of very, very winnable games. So I think that's like a sneaky waiver ad this week.
Yeah, I'd argue they've been great. Their defense, crazy home road splits that team, especially the offense. I think they've scored 2 offensive touchdowns in 3 road games now. And you look at Drake London splits, his are dramatic with Mooney, but all the Mooney games also happened. The home road split overlaps there as well. But Penix has been wild. He looks like, awesome one week and then like the league's worst the next. But the defense, big surprise. People I respected ranked them as the worst pass rush, the worst defensive line entering the year. And this is just what a surprise, man. It's so tough to predict defensive units in football. I mean, not only are they not the worst, they're a top 3, and their pressure rate's been crazy. And
assuming that Atlanta's going to have a terrible pass rush has been a very safe assumption for a very long time. So that's not even, a wild call. But
Carolina too. Carolina had a historic, allowed the most point, not just points game because they played more games, most points per game in NFL history last year, rush defense, and now they're well above average defense. They're not a defense to target in fantasy at all.
Here's a question that I'm gonna outsource to you, being our resident Niners expert. Will there be a day this season that I'm excited to start Juwan Jennings?
I'm gonna say probably not. With 5 broken ribs, high and low ankle sprains, sounds bad. Bourne is just total. I know it wasn't great last night, but Mac Jones loves Bourne. It's like, I guess, is really his best friend outside of football. Back to the New England days.
Yeah.
And Ayuk's eventually going to come back. Now we have Kittle. Boy, Kittle's biggest impact. His first game without a catch, Andy. But since 2024, so started last season, it showed the graphic on the telecast. But averaged 1.5 more yards per carry. I think it's 3.5 to 5.0 with him on the field. I mean, he's just such a. And last night, McCaffrey's first 100-yard rushing game since 2023. So
and again, that was a good defense.
Huge
too.
impact,
defense.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So a big impact from Kittle, who will get more targets moving forward. But Jennings, I mean, Slick Rick may return, so it's not looking great for Jennings considering just how many injuries he's dealing with. And the Niners may get healthier. Of course, that's probably never going to happen. But of course, it could happen with the Niners. All the injuries will strike. But right now, 5 broken ribs, high and low ankle sprain doesn't sound great.
Yeah. It's brutal. I just want to throw this on the screen from Kelly, as a jumping off point to talk about Stafford a little bit. So 5 touchdown passes from Matthew Stafford in a week without Puka was nuts. Some of them went to just random AI generated players too, not even real players, people you don't even have to worry about. But there was a Mumpfield in the wild game from Matthew Stafford. None of the guys that you picked up as speculative ads did anything of note, and Stafford was still great. He's what a season. And as we think about the quarterbacks, I guess I'll take this in a different direction. We can talk about the Jags game if you want to. The Jags were pretty unwatchable. Brian Thomas was pretty terrible. Hunter cobbled together a good game, a lot of it at the end, but whatever. Good game for Hunter. What this has me thinking though is that zero QB was the way to go this year. Some of the quarterbacks we've already talked about, Daniel Jones, Jackson Dart, these guys were free. These guys were free after week 1, week 2, week 3. Matthew Stafford was a giveaway. I feel like the best rosters that I actually have right now are Superflex rosters where I almost completely ignored quarterback until late and focused on every other position. And this Stafford season is crazy. The Aaron Rodgers season has been perfectly fine. Again, Daniel Jones, rock solid. I don't know. How you feeling about quarterback? We don't have Mahomes is great. Mahomes is Pat Mahomes, but I don't know that his edge in fantasy has been so definitive that you'd say that early round quarterback was a great move this year.
And Drake May, you could get around 10 in an NFFC league. So I mean, he's a borderline top 5 guy moving forward. Daniel Jones, he was free. So hard to argue with your point. And we should have seen it coming. The deepest quarterback has ever been. And beginning last year, specifically, there's been more and more quarterbacks starting each year. It's if you're in super flex, maybe you don't have to empty the clip when one becomes available. There'll be another one around the corner. There's more and more starting quarterbacks every year than there has been in the past. And some real good fantasy ones that are coming out of nowhere who run. Jackson Dart, I mean, the signs were there, but it just happened sooner than expected, and he's just getting it done in this tough competition, because that was always the thing. It's you're going to get the opportunity, then he lost Neighbors, then he has all these tough matchups, but producing through those, man, it could be pretty amazing when he gets Neighbors and a better schedule. Next year, he could be a fantasy monster.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can't wait to see it. Here's a question from this goofball, John McGlynn. Hey, John. John's such a nice guy. Plainfield's very own. Pacheco. How are we feeling about Pacheco right now? Buy, hold, or sell in PPR with Brashad Smith emerging? I know you wrote a little bit about Brashad Smith after this weekend. His usage as a receiver has been super exciting. People should not get, in my opinion, hung up on his carries this last weekend. Most of them were running out the clock time in a game that did not even have Mahomes on the field. But he was involved early as a receiver. That's the way they were trying to use him in the preseason. Your best hope, I think, for Smith is as a Jerick McKinnon type. And wow, did we get proof of concept of that, I thought, this last weekend.
Yes. So the key here to me is PPR. I mean, that's the key to this deal here, because Pacheco looks like he's taken over for Kareem Hunt dating back to last week. It's been 2 weeks now. He's been the featured guy there, and including the 7-yard TD run last week. So that's huge. Pacheco's value is arrows pointing up for sure. But that said, PPR, Brashard Smith, and it was key what you said there, his usage as a receiver, because the stat I threw in my column, game recaps, was that he's leading all running backs in yards per route run by a mile. But yeah, if he's getting targeted every time he's running a route, that does help. But he's been so productive with that. I mean, man, he looks like a player that gives him an element that they haven't had out of the backfield, and it's the Chiefs now with Rashee Rice and Mahomes back to MVP form. So there's a lot of fantasy upside should he actually take over. But given his build, I expect kind of more of the same there, with Pacheco getting the short touchdowns and Brashard Smith getting a definite bump in PPR.
Yeah, we're in the same place on this. I don't really imagine the Chiefs wanting to have like just a single featured back who does all the things and keeps everyone else off the field. And I think that Pacheco and Smith are really a nice complementary pair. And as long as you're focused on Brashard Smith as like a Damian Williams, Jerick McKinnon type, you're on the right track. I would not expect him to. I don't think he's really competing with Pacheco, I guess is the way I would put it.
That one primetime league I've been talking to you about that I really sore a RB2, just no one. And that's where I spent a lot on Gainwell and Michael Carter, Brashard Smith. I've been stashing. So he might be, I don't need more than, even 12 points to be, great in PPR for him if he can just get out there for me. But, love to see it, man. What about Rashee Rice's usage? 19 routes, and he's already top 5 in targets inside the 5 or something. It's insane. It's absolutely crazy.
How many targets like in the end zone? Yeah,
and he got a touchdown catch that he easily would have scored on from Minshew, called back by not even counting that in the stats too. He had another touchdown that was a scoop that was nullified by penalty, and he did not score on that drive. So literally another one too. Wild usage.
I only have him stashed in a couple of leagues, but they were the right leagues, and I did the thing that I was encouraging other people to do, which is if you get out to like a 3-0 start, 4-0 start, go get Rashee Rice, because the team that has him is probably scuffling a little bit. So I did that in a couple of other places. So I have acquired some Rashee Rice, felt really good about it. And I don't know that there's like broad takeaways necessarily from his big game, other than he wasn't hurt. He was coming back from a suspension, and you should probably feel better about players in that situation, because we're not limiting your snaps coming back from a suspension. You're fine. You have years in the system. Like you're well known to the quarterback. I had no hesitation plugging him into lineups and calling him a top 10 receiver right away.
Yeah, 50% shares I have him in NFFC league. So let's go keep that up. I have a lot of Worthy too, and I think he takes a big downgrade here. I mean, definitely the targets aren't.
So I actually let's stick with that. I don't know. Part of me just thinks, man, that the Chiefs have leveled up. Part of me just thinks now the Chiefs are just going to be like a 30 to 33 point per game sort of team, and they are going to be a real problem. Like, not that they weren't a problem. But I think there's still room for Worthy. Like they don't do exactly the same things. And I kind of feel like there's I don't know. I feel if people are going to be panic sellers on the thing you should worry about with Worthy right now is that he's going to be playing through this shoulder thing all year. And that is going to dog him for the rest of the season. I get that. But I feel like if anybody's a panic seller on Worthy and you can get him at a good price, I'd probably still do it.
He gets gadget plays as well. This offense is scoring just a ton of points. I mean, Mahomes played 5 possessions before he sat last week. They scored that many points before
crazy.
He could rest. Crazy. So maybe I misspoke there. Worthy was being ranked, weekly borderline top 12, 15 without Rice, and now he's more like 20 or wide receiver 22 or something. So like low wide receiver 2 who will have more hit or miss type weeks. The person who I would say downgrades here, because it's dating back to whenever Rice is on the field, Kelsey out of the slot. Yeah. He sees his usage does go down. He'd be the guy that I think takes actually a bigger hit than Worthy. But man, if you're Mahomes, you're happy all these guys, and if he keeps running like he did, I mean, it's just a nuclear season.
Yeah, because they've not only do they have Rice back, but now they have like Brashard Smith as a real functional part of that receiving core. So that's been awesome.
Hopefully Josh Simmons is okay. That left tackle situation is really, it's weird what's going on, but it's obviously a family issue that's serious. So hopefully that's okay.
We had an amusing question on the screen for a moment there from Benson about Kendrick Bourne and Kayshon Boutte. Where do you see Boutte rest of season? Because he's not seeing significant volume, right? It's anywhere between I think he's got a high of 8 targets in a game this year, but nothing approaching that since then. It's usually 3 to 5. But these are high yield downfield targets. He's been great. I don't know that anybody could keep this up, but Drake May has been crazy on deep balls. I was looking this up earlier today, and it's like 5 touchdowns, no picks, a completion percentage of like 78%. That might have actually gone up this last weekend because he barely had any incompletions. And that's like where Booty lives, right? Like that's what he's there to do. He's had a couple of highlight catches this year. I don't know. I can't. A guy with like target totals like this, I don't usually have it in me to rank him as a very playable wide receiver 3, but that offense has been humming. Some of it is schedule related, and they have some tougher challenges coming up, but not all of it is schedule related. They've seen Buffalo, and they walked out of there with a win. So I don't know. Where are you on Booty in particular?
Wide receiver 4 for the reasons you stated. Diggs is still the guy there. Hunter Henry is definitely taking a step back, but yeah, Booty may continue to catch these deep balls every other week, but not super reliable fantasy moving forward. Although, as you point out, May is money with these deep throws, but a wide receiver 4.
I think he has a perfect passer rating on passes traveling 20 plus yards downfield, which is wild.
Yeah, as many incompletions as touchdown passes last week. He's just he's out of control right now, Andy.
Yeah, let's take this one. It's a complicated trade question. I'm trying to trade Debo plus Pollard. Wow, there's a sweetener. Tony Pollard for Justin Jefferson. But another team offered me Puka plus Hubbard for Debo and Scatabo. Would you take that trade?
Standard league, so it's definitely the Puka loses value there. Scatabo's go good. Debo's health, we're guessing. Hubbard's the 1B now. It looks like what a wild ride in Carolina there, man. He definitely came out as the guy, and then Dowdle took over, but it looks like it's going to be a 2 David Montgomery situations, is how he's referred to Detroit. I don't feel strongly here. I guess Puka's just so good. It's a fair swap. I don't feel strongly here. I guess it depends on, I don't know. I guess I'd go Scatabo and Debo. Standard. I mean, if it's PPR, I'd say Puka easily.
I feel like Puka comes back from the bye and he's fine. I don't think you have to worry about the long-term injury there. I think this is fair. I probably still want the best player. Also, I'm dismissing the trade that you would like to.
Yeah, I was going to say do that Jefferson one. Yeah,
because that ain't happening.
Yeah.
Like nobody's taking that. Jefferson is through his bye. Like he's not gonna miss another game this year. It's just Tony Pollard. Like you gotta come with a better running back than that, or Hubbard, I would say, if you're even hoping to get Justin Jefferson. That is just absolutely not going to happen. I don't even think I would counter that one. But I feel like the second one, I don't have a strong lean either, and I do think it's a fair offer. But I would want to stick with Puka. I think.
Wonder how Puka, is he going to be affected by the ankle sprain? And also, he was getting looks there the last couple games, but red zone is Devontae Adams. I mean, Puka is, don't get me wrong, the best usage by far as a wide receiver, but really actually inside the 10, it hasn't really been him historically.
Look at this nonsense. How do I ban Anthony?
I didn't want to needle you on it.
I'm banning this guy. The Bears are the hottest team in football. Caleb, the
look at that defense.
Favorite for MVP. Come on.
The defense, DeAndre Swift looking like a stud. Drake May.
They actually did kind of grind the Saints to dust on the ground. That was really fun to watch, which actually leads to this question. And I'll get your thoughts first because I'll get your thoughts first. Your feelings on Kyle Monangai. Would you consider him an ad over Pacheco? Pacheco on waivers in a shallow league. Yeah. How would you prioritize those two if they were both available to you?
No, definitely Pacheco. You want the lead back in Kansas City and to take an injury in Chicago. But interesting, the rookie got 39% snap share this last week or something around there. Swift is an interesting sell high candidate in fantasy because his dramatic splits and win losses, and I believe the Bears aren't favored in too many games. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is the case.
That seems like a Vegas problem.
And he's coming off. Well done. And he's coming off a couple of awesome games, but he's looked great while doing it. And also while doing that, Monangai has quietly been getting more work. But clearly, you want Pacheco over him at this stage. But what are your thoughts on Chicago's backfield, Andy?
Yeah, I think it is very clearly DeAndre Swift right now, and you make a very good point about the schedule ahead is I don't know, it's the schedule ahead is a little bit weird because they travel to Baltimore and then they travel to Cincinnati, And I wish I could tell you exactly how those games were going to go. I'm fairly sure Lamar is coming back and the Ravens are going to put up a big number, but I am also fairly sure that the Bears, if they are who I hope they are, can move the ball against Baltimore. So that might not be that bad. And Swift has also been a very valuable receiver for this team. Basically the touchdown that flipped the Washington game was DeAndre Swift on a really nice play design, making a play and making somebody miss and taking it to the house. So he's a valuable receiver who can survive game flow not totally going his way. I do think that the Monangai situation was mostly about the fact that the Bears got up big, 20-0, and then they gave some of it away, but 20-0, and they could get whatever they wanted on the ground. I do think he is the primary backup, and he is clearly playing ahead of Roschon Johnson, who I certainly thought at one point was going to be the goal line guy and was going to have a real role. But Monangai is very clearly the understudy in Chicago. I don't think he's that great, and I could be proven wrong. I'd be happy to be wrong about this. I just think he's a little small and a little slow, and he's getting what's there for him. But I don't view him as, oh man, if only DeAndre Swift would get out of the way, we'd have this secret superstar. It's not like that. I think Swift is a better player. And I'm not even a big DeAndre Swift guy. That's not one of my favorite backs in the league, but I think he is definitively better than Monangai right now. And you need to view Monangai as he's a backup. He might be a backup with benefits, but he is mostly a backup, and he's a handcuff for you, and not somebody that I think belongs in the same conversation with Isaiah Pacheco.
You see that Caleb Williams has been much better on plays without motion this season, which is usually the opposite of quarterbacks, and obviously an ill fit with Ben Johnson's new system. But obviously it's smaller sample, but I found that interesting.
Well, it was part of the big learning curve of camp, right? More play action, more motion, asking Caleb to do a whole world of things that he wasn't doing last year and hasn't necessarily been asked to do historically. This stuff is hard, and he's under a microscope in a way that a lot of quarterbacks are not. So he's not allowed the luxury of figuring it out on the fly. But yeah, probably not a huge surprise. I guess the hope, if you're a Bears fan, but at this point, Bears fans are week to week, right? They've won 4 in a row, and people are like, "Oh, playoffs." But you should really be thinking about the longer term development of Caleb Williams, and it's a process. There's taking on the Ben Johnson offense. They're not even going to get the whole thing this year, right? He's going to fold more into it over time. There's a lot to this. This is a tough one. So Doug Martin passing away this week. We don't have all the details on it. I don't really want to speculate on what was going on. But what a player upon his arrival. And this was just absolutely shocking news. And I feel really terrible about it. I hate to reduce somebody's life to my own fantasy memories, right? But just a tragic situation. I feel terrible about it.
Yeah, R.I.P. Muscle Hamster, and Oakland's about an hour away from where I sit right now. So, yeah, sad news for sure. Yeah, he was a great player.
Alec Pierce this is an interesting question from Benson. Alec Pierce seems like Booty with an actual role in the offense. Colts appear determined to heave it to him at least a few times each week. How much I think he had 10 targets this past week. How much of that was Josh Downs just not being out there, and the game was a little bit... Actually, I was going to say the game was a little shootouty, but only the final score was shootouty. The Colts controlled this game. Fun game upon rewatch. Like a lot of Chargers games, it turned on weird stuff, right? The game kind of turned on the play where Herbert hits the defensive tackle in the face and it pops up and the tackle catches it, right? Just a really weird interception that you would not expect from Justin Herbert and it was one of those games where you had to score on every drive. And I think, that ended obviously the Chargers drive, and then the Colts turn around and they get a touchdown out of it. I think it was the Warren touchdown. And it just little things like that when you're facing a great team, it's that flips it. Anyway, Alec Pierce had a huge role, I think 10 targets in the game. How much of that was who wasn't there for the Colts?
I think it definitely was an effect of no Josh Downs, even though they don't run the same type of routes. And this is a team that's just
Yeah.
centered around Jonathan Taylor with a good defense, and and then Michael Pittman's their clear wide receiver one. So Pierce, one of those boomer bust type best ball guys who will typically catch, a long touchdown every 3 weeks or so. And I wouldn't expect double digit targets again.
Yeah, I think a standard issue game is actually, I think like calling him out as a booty type player though
Yeah.
is right, because I
Yeah.
think they're both in line for in a great week they might get 6 targets, right? It's almost never going to be more than that, and you're just counting on the nature of the targets, and so then then it comes down to, I don't know, you probably feel pretty good about Daniel Jones right now, but you should feel great about the way Drake May is throwing the deep ball. Again, nobody's doing it like this. Perfect passer rating on deep throws is pretty crazy.
Before the neck injury, Daniel Jones always had really great stats on deep throws. I know it seems wild because the last few years has been opposite, but this year he's obviously looking great.
How much Jones do you have? You have him in that Vegas league of ours, don't you?
Yeah, I have him in a few. Any Superflex league I was trying to especially stash early because, like I've said, Anthony Richardson was a guy I was high on, not just because of I love dirt balls, but I like the Shane Steichen system and quarterbacks who run indoors and have all those good receivers. I mean, I liked the setup there. Jones has not been running nearly as much like your guy Caleb, the design runs, and he's not stolen any at the goal line at all from Taylor. So his fantasy upside has taken a bit of a hit there. But even his biggest, but I didn't expect him to be this good, though. Obviously, I mean, I thought he, competent in a system that would produce fantasy points, not like MVP talk or something. I mean, this is crazy the way he's resurrected his career. But Steichen, coach of the year favorite. I mean, he deserves a ton of credit. He's awesome. That's why I thought Richardson didn't have to be a great real life quarterback with all these guys wide open and a great system and indoors and really athletic receivers to throw to, and add Tyler Warren to the mix.
Yeah. I feel like a fool. Like I thought that was going to be a terrible landing spot for Tyler Warren fantasy wise. Back when I couldn't imagine them starting the season without Anthony Richardson as their quarterback, I was panicky about it because again, Richardson last year averaged like 11 completions a game, and that just will not feed a passing attack. But it has been just a world of difference.
Dude, it's true. I said, is there a quarterback controversy after that? Moving the pile. Richardson, when he came in, he threw a pass to himself and moved the pile. I know.
Thoughts on the Chargers uniforms this past week?
No good, but they're that was the Savannah Bananas, right? That was all yellow. Yeah. I mean, you could easily see it was I love the contrast actually of the yellow and the white, but I do believe they're going back to the throwbacks, Tomlinson style, this upcoming week, I believe. But
yeah, that's really sweet.
I don't know, those are pretty ugly last week. Yes, no.
I really like the Bengals all whites, the Stormtrooper uniforms.
Oh, the best. Easily.
I love those. I think that's really good.
Yeah, that's when Chase is going off for 200 whenever they wear those.
Xavier Legette or Jalen Coker, short term and rest of season. Goodness, Javier, I hope this is a very deep league. We're probably going to get Andy Dalton for a little while. Bryce Young picked up an ankle injury this week. I probably should have mentioned that at the top. Do you have a lean on Legette versus Coker?
Favorite of the deep shot, Andy Dalton. Well, this is interesting because it'll go a couple ways with this. Legette was targeted heavily by Dalton last week. Now, maybe that's because Sauce Gardner was all over Tet, although Gardner did leave in the fourth quarter concussed. But also last year, the guy who Andy Dalton fed like crazy was Thielen out of the slot, and that's where Coker plays. So I'm going to throw my hands up on this one because the last piece of data we saw, he loved Legette, but I would think Tet would take over on the outside moving forward, and maybe Coker, whom I love, and I think is a better player than Legette. So I would still lean Coker.
Yeah, I lean Coker as well. I'm probably going to have Coker a little bit higher in the ranks, like the player, like the role, like the way he fits with McMillan, who I just think is absolutely sensational.
Upgrade for the receivers and Tet. There's hope with Andy Dalton. I mean, you're going to get, maybe not Flacco type upgrade in Cincy, but they're winning games with the defense. Bryce Young was not helping his pass catchers at all.
I love that Andy Dalton. I mean, I'm not wishing injury on anyone, but I kind of love that Andy Dalton is back in the game. I hope that he has like a I don't know, Joe Flacco sort of end to his career where he keeps resurfacing and keeps helping teams.
Who else is an upgrade is Jacoby Brissett for pass catchers in Arizona. Undeniably, man. It's McBride has as many touchdowns the last 6 weeks last 6 quarters as he had the last season with Murray.
No chance they stick with him though, right?
Oh, no
Coming
chance.
out,
No chance.
coming out of the bye, yeah, no chance they stick with him. Do you? What do you think the Jets are going to do, and does it matter?
No, it doesn't. My guy Fields is that was ugly. That's as ugly as it gets.
Yeah.
I my doesn't matter is my answer. Yeah, I don't know. He'll
Yeah, I
probably
don't
go
think it
Fields and then
matters
get
either.
benched again. And then I would say Tyrod Taylor is a favorite to start more games moving forward. I'll say that.
It wasn't. It wasn't much better with Tyrod Taylor. I don't think
No, he
Tyrod
missed some
Taylor is
wide open
substantially better.
touchdowns too,
Yeah.
not just the stats. He missed 2 wide open guys for touchdowns. Yes, it wasn't much better. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole game was a brutal watch. I'm not feeling great about it.
JC
Aron,
Horn was an animal. JC Horn
an
was
animal.
every.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great call out. One name that I want to mention before we get out of here, Aronde Gadsden. Is this the hands down top waiver priority this week? I mean, I listed him that way in the column. This is 2 weeks in a row with pretty significant target totals. He finds the end zone this week. Crazy after the catch moments this week. I just thought he was great. But is a little recency bias there? Am I? How many times did Justin Herbert throw this past? Was it
55?
55? Yeah. I mean, that's obviously we're not going to repeat that too often. 40 is a huge number. 55 is a silly number that's not going to come up again. How excited should I be about Gadsden?
I'm buying in with you, a sucker here. Maybe it's recency bias, but it's 2 weeks, as you mentioned, in a row. The other tight ends just flat out weren't on the field last week. He took over.
Yeah.
It wasn't the fantasy production. It was the usage that was equally as impressive. They can't run the ball. The offensive line cannot run the ball. Yes, there's a lot of receivers he's competing with for targets, but I believe their pass rate of expectation has declined since the hot start. But you're catching passes from Herbert and the team that's going to be throwing heavily. I think it's set up to be a top. I ranked him as a top 15 fantasy tight end rest of season. Now, he's a really good college production, and guys who followed stuff far more than me were hyping him long ago. I've stashed him on some dynasty teams. Really excited. I mean, plus he passed the eye test. Did you see him? I mean, he's a monster out there. So yeah, I like if he's going to be the tight end one for the rest of the year with a Greg Roman offense with Herbert throwing to him. It's a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, there was a moment where he had to come off the field against the Colts, and they targeted Disley. Disley immediately dropped it, and Gadsden came back and was just freaking awesome. I've thought he's been. I just think he's been great. He also is our favorite type of tight end in fantasy, which is to say he's not really a tight end at all. They're not going
Right.
to. We're not putting that guy in the backfield. He's not blocking a whole lot. They're just going to split him out wide, and they're going to have him in the slot, and he's going to be a receiver. He's just a fourth receiver for that team, and he's big, and I don't know. He's really passed the eye test, and this is 2 weeks in a row. This isn't just like we're only reacting to a single big game against the Colts. No, he had a huge target total 2 weeks ago as well. I think this is pretty real. I'm pretty excited about it. Here's a good question to go out on. Who are some guys in your IR slots that you're close to giving up on?
Probably Ayuk would be the first to come to mind. I'm not super confident in Ayuk, but I guess if you waited this long, I don't know who other IR guys can you think of?
I mean, I've long since dropped Joe Mixon.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's an obvious one. Yeah, if you're still holding on to him, that's the perfect one. Give up hope. We should have a month ago, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the most recent thing that we heard was that we were weeks away from getting an update, which means you're weeks away from being weeks away, which means he's not going to play during your fantasy season. And if we see Joe Mixon at all, it's gonna be total consolation bracket time. So I don't think you can hold on to him. Trying to think of anybody else who's been sitting out there for a while. Shallow league, Ricky Pearsall, yay or nay?
You got to hold. Yeah, no, you got to hold. Given the rest of the receiving core there, and he was the clear number one guy this year when he was on the field. But we don't know what's going on with that loose knee. Yeah, I mean it's definite and indefinite. I mean, it could be this week, it could be another month. I don't know, and they're unclear with their timetables in San Francisco. But man, it's Pearsall's a guy I think you got to hold.
All right, I think that's going to do it. I'm going to fire up the Monday night chat in the Discord for the Yacht Club. That's always fun. So join us in the Discord for the watch party. Please, I don't know if you enjoyed this, if you've enjoyed any of the content, even if you don't enjoy it and you're just here sticking around for some weird reason, subscribe to the Deep Shot. It's available to you. Really appreciate all you guys for showing up. Appreciate you, Dalton, and enjoy the games tonight, people.